My name is Farel Yusuf, and I'm presenting the synopsis or summary of the workshop, Open Data for Rural Communities, Measuring Access to Services, to outline the open geospatial data sources and tools identified in the workshop, as well as the methods applied. I will also highlight some key areas of interest to develop comparisons between Canada's context and that of other peer countries. All speakers of this workshop were affiliated with organizations listed here. In the presentation of this webinar, few slides were taken from speakers' presentations of these organizations of the reference purpose. Statistics Canada, together with the Centre of Rural Economic Development, organized an online workshop, Open Data for Rural Communities, Measuring Access to Services, on October 13, 2021. This workshop is one of a series of strategic discussions aimed at expanding collective knowledge through concrete examples across Canada and internationally on the use of data for rural and regional policy analysis. Each presentation in this workshop was about 20 minutes long. I have prepared a high-level abstract of each presentation and enlisted key points from each presentation to cover the entire workshop in about 15 to 20 minutes. First two presentations were delivered by representatives from the United Nations and the Organization for Economic Cooperation and Development to provide an international perspective on how they have been utilizing open geospatial data to measure access to services in rural areas. The third presentation featured open access data analysis from Canadian analysts within Statistics Canada and Infrastructure Canada. Three objectives of this conference were to identify geospatial data and tools available, and how this data is used by policymakers for rural and regional policy analysis, and how the growth of this data provides new opportunities to map accessibility to services for rural and remote communities. The overall objective of this discussion was how the open access data may be used by policymakers to improve the quality of life of entire populations. The title of the first presentation of the workshop was Rural Access to Services, a Global Perspective, presented by the speaker from United Nations and Statistics Divisions. Under this subject, Ronald referred to these 17 Sustainable Development Goals to achieve a better and more sustainable future for all countries. His presentation was particularly focused on the goal number 9, which is infrastructure and transport. I have separated it out as a point of discussion here. The achievement of these 17 goals is measured through a set of performance indicators. The Rural Access Index is one of them, which is used in the transport sector. The RAI measures the portion of rural population who has access to all-season roads within 2 kilometers or an equivalent walking distance of 25 minutes. Main data source to calculate RAI are global population distribution data sets, road network data, and road condition data. And after overlaying these data sets, the number of population who live in 2 kilometers of a good road is calculated. If I click on the source, a link provided to access the data. It will take us to this screen and we can get RAI value for any country in the world. For just an example, I put my cursor on Canada and it is showing the overall RAI value for Canada 81%. And we can also zoom into any city or town in Canada or any other country in the world to see population density who live in 2 kilometers of a good road. From this presentation, a key area of interest or a potential future research area could be identify the accessibility of Manitoba's rural population to all season roads within 2 kilometer area. The title of the second presentation of the workshop was Assessing Differences in Access and Cost to Public Services Across Space, presented by speakers from the Organization for Economic cooperation and development. The open data source that Paulo and Anna highlighted in this workshop is only available for the European countries. It was a two-part presentation. In the first part, the speaker presented their work on international comparable estimations of access to and cost of education and health services using geospatial modeling and population projections. In this exercise, the cost estimation rely on publicly available data for England. This presentation focuses on what access and cost relationship is, or in other words, what cost is involved in getting access to these basic necessities or services. The speakers also highlighted some rural-urban disparities facts. For example, existence of number of locations providing education and health services in an area depends on the population of the area. Few service location for rural areas is a great cost efficiency measures, but it involves long distance and different demographic groups demand health services differently. The speakers who have conducted analysis keeping the 2011 as a primary reference year to estimate how the cost of accessibility would increase by 2035. In doing so, they projected that there will be 20% increase in demand of cardiology services due to aging, as well as the demand for maternity services will increase due to the increase in population. The travel limitations of different age groups or inability to drive or get access to local transport could be a challenge in services accessibility. And other challenges, the data is only available for European countries. If I click on the source or link provided to access the data, it will take us to this screen where we can find the international comparable estimations of access to and cost of education and health services using geospatial modeling and population projections for England. From this part of the presentation, a key area of interest or a potential future research area could be the development of such kind of data in Manitoba or Canada conditions, because no such information is available for Manitoba or Canada. However, it may be developed if local open access data is available. The second part of the presentation focused on the access to digital connectivity or internet. In simple words, the pandemic has been a turning point in the push for increased use of internet in many countries. During the COVID-19, a dramatic increase of remote working and online shopping and delivering of goods and services is observed. The challenge is many regions still lag behind in the adoption of digital technologies and the degree of digital skills of the population. Internet use is not widespread across places within countries. The gap between regions can be greater than 20 percentage points, for example, Ireland, Turkish, and Japan. If I click on the course or link provided to access the data, it will take us to this screen, and using this side, we can find the internet speed of our system. This figure shows that the overall people living in Canada experience internet speed 22% above the OECD average. Also, people living in larger cities regions experience download speeds 12% above the national average. The title of the third presentation of the workshop was Proximity Measures to Services and Amenities for Rural Canada, a very local presentation presented by speakers from Statistics Canada and Infrastructure Canada. Before going into the summary of the third presentation, I'm providing a couple of definitions here for the better understanding of presentation contents. A dissemination block is an area bounded on all sides by roads or boundaries of standard geographic areas. The dissemination block is the smallest geographic area for which population and dwelling counts are disseminated. normalized index value tells how far a service is from a dissemination block in kilometers. So basically, it's the measure of accessibility level of an amenity from the dissemination block. It is also called spatial proximity measurement tool. The value resulting from computations are converted to a scale from 0 to 1, where 0 indicates the lowest proximity and the 1 the highest proximity in Canada. Dissemination blocks with no value are those with no service within a given distance. Statistics Canada developed the first set of nationwide proximity measures, which is an online program called Proximity Measure Database, or PMD. It was released in 2020 in partnership with the Canada Mortgage and Housing Corporation. The development of PMD was guided by the concept of walkable neighborhoods, that is, neighborhoods in which most of the frequently used services and amenities are within a short walking distance along, although this conceptualization works well for urban and to some extent small town Canada. It doesn't properly reflect the notion of proximity in more rural localities because rural residents are typically accessing services at short driving distances. This database implemented measures for 9 different types of amenities across Canada. These measures are developed at the dissemination block level, and the dissemination block is about the size of a city block in urban areas, but it is considerably larger in rural area. If I click on the source or link provided to access the data, it will take us to the screen. This slide shows the measure of accessibility level of grocery stores from the dissemination block in the Brandon area. The top right-hand side ledger shows an I value from 0 to 1. This slide shows standard distances between an amenity and dissemination block used to calculate the normalized index value. For example, an area having amenities of a park, public transit stop, pharmacy, and a grocery store within 1 kilometer distance from the dissemination block has normalized index value 1. Likewise, an area having amenities of a library, education institution, and a childcare facility within 1.5 kilometer distance from the dissemination block has normalized index value 1. The standard distances for a health facility and employment are 3 kilometer and 10 kilometer driving, respectively, in this model. This slide shows the outcome of data analysis showing the percentage of population living in the proximity of amenities by type of region in Canada. And regions are distributed here as rural, smaller urban, and larger urban. There's lower percentage of rural population living in the proximity of amenities as compared to smaller urban and larger urban areas. This slide shows the percentage of population living in the amenity-dense neighborhoods by type of region in Canada. The data shows the percentage of rural population living in the amenity-dense neighborhoods is only 0.4%. This percentage is relatively higher in smaller urban and larger urban areas. From this presentation, the key areas of interest or potential future research areas could be development of a high flexible model, adaptable with considerations for current or future demand. Also, evaluation of access and proximity with active public transportation. Thanks for your time and attention. For your question, concern, and comments, please refer to the email address on your screen.